Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. A story I want you to pay very close attention to is what's currently happening with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, which is one of the most powerful, moneyed organizations, institutions in the world. Currently at the head, a pawn, Christine Lagarde, who replaced DSK, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, who was accused around the 2007-2008 period of flagrantly touching a chambermaid, maybe trying to rape a chambermaid, raping a chambermaid. Who really knows what the case was, but we know it was used as a tool to discredit him so that they could pull him from the IMF at the time during the height of the 2007-2008 crisis and put the pawn in the name of Christine Lagarde into that very, very powerful position. Now the tables have turned. In 2014, with Christine Lagarde under scrutiny right now, being pushed out and DSK'd herself with corruption charges being launched at her character. And now the board of directors likely to push her out of one of the most powerful institutions in the world. And the question we need to ask is why? Again, DSK, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, likely framed. At that period of time, Nicolas Sarkozy was then pushed into the presidency in the French elections at the time, which I believe were in 2007. Dominique Strauss-Kahn was a very serious threat to him, and it's why likely they embroiled him in a scandal and pushed him out of the IMF, ruined his character so that it minimized his chances of actually contending with the chosen one, Nicolas Sarkozy, at the time. Now, for those of you that know your history, Nicolas Sarkozy has also had gross corruption charges brought against him in recent years, allegedly accepting some 50 million euros from the late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, who was implicitly and indirectly murdered by the United States federal government. Of course, the United States and our politicians and bankers here in Washington arming the insurgents on the ground that overtook Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, one of the most powerful and richest men on the planet, before his murder. So I want you to pay very, very close attention to what's happening now. Christine Lagarde likely out at the IMF, and the question is why? Why has this been orchestrated? Why is she now being de-escaped at a time of great global economic turmoil and strife? Of course, we have the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa moving to establish their own versions of the IMF, their own International Monetary Fund, their own equivalent of the World Bank as they move away from the petrodollar, and we approach the global conflagration, which I believe to be the global war that we are already engaged in today. You know, people need to really see what's happening and really look at not just the structural problems fundamentally on a financial level here in the United States of America, but also the geopolitical war games that are currently taking place overseas, most specifically in the Middle East. Whether or not this is Syria, this is Obama's previous attack of Libya, his soon-to-be airstrikes in not just Iraq, but now Syria in the coming days, according to the mainstream media. All of this a part of the program, and all of this a part of, I guess, trying to maintain some kind of stability in regards to the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, which we know, anybody that's educated in this area knows that we're moving away from that. So keep your eyes wide open. Again, the IMF, essentially the world's loan shark that indebts other nations to the petrodollar, to the United States. This is exactly what's been happening with Ukraine. The IMF promising billions of dollars to the newly revolutionized Ukrainian government that has been supported by the West, because of course this creates indebtedness, and through that allows the IMF and the United States to control these countries throughout the world today. And it's all interlinked with global finance. It's all interlinked with the New World Order paradigm as it stands today. Again, the IMF, one of the most powerful moneyed organizations in the world today. And now the chess piece is moving at a time of global war. We just had news of a Gaza ceasefire. Of course, they've been fighting for 7 weeks now, and I don't really believe that there's going to be a ceasefire, but this is a time of global escalating tensions, not just in places like Gaza, but the Ukraine, and now the Syria-Iraq caliphate that has mysteriously been declared by ISIS, the new boogeyman. You see how there's always a perpetual boogeyman? If it's not Al-Qaeda, it becomes the JV team, as Obama once said, and becomes ISIS. A lot of Americans wanting to know, Where did ISIS come from? How did they mysteriously rise to power just at the perfect time to be the new Satan, to be the new boogeyman that the United States needs to snuff out and use as their reason for over 100 plus airstrikes in Iraq over the weekend and counting, and soon to be airstrikes in Syria? Again, America and the government itself needs a perpetual boogeyman to justify these atrocities, to justify these wars, and that's why you're seeing Pentagon officials right now on CNN. You're seeing the president. You're also seeing smoke and mirror campaigns disguised to distract the American people. Things like the Michael Brown protests and riots in Ferguson, Missouri, all this being used to take your eye off the ball of what's really happening and occurring geopolitically. Not just with the money system, namely at the IMF with Christine Lagarde likely out in the coming days, but also what's happening from a war front geopolitically in the Middle East today. All this very serious, very important, and it has to do with the U.S. dollar itself in particular, the world reserve currency, in America's loss on that grip of reality that has really dominated international finance for much of the last century. I'm Christopher Green. Get this out everywhere, make it viral, hard hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor. Check out our sponsor, ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com, the leading innovator in water filtration systems. Get all of your water filters at ProPureUSA.com. Click the link below right now.